Hello, everyone. I'm here with yet another recording on New World. I think this will be the last one that I can do until new content comes out or until they actually fix things. But before I get into that, let me just quickly talk about my mic volume. In the last recording, or the recording before, I forget which one now, someone asked if I could crank up my mic volume. So I've done it with this recording because I'm in a new place, I guess you can say, for doing my recordings. It was, well, before this, it was a little more difficult for me to crank up the volume because the room I was in was all hardwood floors and the walls were echoing my voice. So I never did turn up my mic volume very far because I could hear that echo in the playback. So ever since then, I've kept my mic volume at 45% to avoid that echo, and also because I could hear myself quite fine when I did the playback using my computer headsets. So whenever I make a recording, I'm checking for that. If I can hear myself fine, then I just publish it. That's what I do. However, if there are people who can't hear me because they're on a Bluetooth headset or something like that, then please let me know, because there is no way I can test that. So I want to make this as easy on you as you can, but unfortunately you've got to let me know when I need to do something to make that happen. But yes, now I'm in a new spot, and this new spot, this new room, actually has carpet flooring, and the walls don't echo as much. So I'm a little more okay with cranking my mic volume to 55% instead of the usual 45. Either way, we'll give this a trial run. Please let me know in the description if this is good or not. Okay? Okay, moving on. So I want to talk about the crafting problem with New World. Honestly, New World is a big old mess. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand that, to a lot of people, it's a new MMO, it's hype, and, it's fun and whatever. But if you were to peel away all the hype and actually get people to slow down and think about the game, you would see that it really has a lot of issues. Issues that should not exist if a developer was properly planning out this game. And one of the chief issues is going to be crafting and traveling. So let's talk about crafting specifically first. You'll notice that I've pulled up a Fexture Life page which has a engineering guide. They also have a weaponsmithing guide, but either one will relay what I'm trying to say here. You'll notice in either the Fexture Life guides, as well as some of the other guides out there, that they tell you to use iron and to never use your next tier of materials for leveling out a particular trade skill, whether it be weaponsmithing, engineering, or even arcana. Well, actually, with arcana, you can also level off potions, but that's a completely different matter. But yeah, so it's really weird to me that they would design an MMO in such a way where it's mathematically better to do iron for the entirety of your life. In most MMOs, there is a clear progression towards your next tier. But unfortunately, they've made it so expensive to progress the next tier that nobody really does it, apparently, between Fexture Life and the other guides that I can read. So that's a problem for a couple of reasons. One, it means that you have made it so everybody's using the same resource from the beginning of their time on the game to the end of their game, which results in people fighting over the said resource and making said resource harder to come by. Two is that the progression is a lot slower. Yes, you can do it with iron, but the progression is going to be a lot slower if you were to do it with that way. And then three is going to be the clear progression, as I was saying. So, people aren't going to sit down and actually think about this. They're just going to do whatever they see on their page, right? Because that's how a lot of people work in games, not just MMOs, but a lot of games, where they won't sit down and actually look at guides like this. They'll just do whatever they think is best according to whatever is on their screen. some of those people are actually super resistant to feedback or suggestions or advice, because some people are like that, oh, I can do it on my own mentality, I don't want anybody's help type of thing. You do have those kinds of people in any game community, which makes it even harder for us to educate them on what they're doing wrong. And then surely enough, what happens is either those types of people or the other type of people will go to the forums and complain that crafting's taking too long. Well, yeah, it's taking too long because you're doing it the wrong way. But yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I meant, yeah, two, I messed up. Well, either way, so, another thing too is it slows you down. I would say that's the next biggest issue, is that crafting slows you down. When I started on my server, I was doing it because a few of the streamer friends that I know started on that server. Now, we started at roughly the same time, plus or minus maybe an hour difference. So an hour is really not a huge deal, all things considered. But they're level 39 and I'm level 30. That's how hard this crafting has slowed me down. Now, I will be fair and say that, some of it was my mistake, because I went into this game with a specific plan, and said plan did not work out as well as I was hoping it would. And so I had to revert from going from weaponsmithing to engineering because I switched weapon types and things of that nature. So my weaponsmithing's at 50, my engineering's at 88, and Arcana's at 50, cooking's at 50. So yeah, I've done a lot of crafting. But yeah, no, I think that I would have gone a lot quicker on the progression path had I not made that transition from weaponsmithing to engineering. So I will be fair about that. But the point is, either way, that I started roughly the same time as another person, and they're 9 levels ahead of me because of how hard I have had to slow down. So that's annoying. Let me go and give a couple of ideas or suggestions, I guess, on what I think could be done differently. One is to actually create a recipe for this stuff. If you're going to make us use coarse sandpaper, sandflux, tannin, crossweave for that extended period of time, then make it possible so we can actually make them ourselves. So like coarse sandpaper could be, I don't know, let's just say stone bricks plus linen, I guess. Just something like that. And make it super simple, something that doesn't have to involve a lot of resources. Crossweave could be, let's just say, linen and silkweed, I think is its name. Yeah, not like the actual refined silkweed, but just like silkweed you grab from plants. I think that would be more than fair because harvesting levels so dang quick from how much linen you need, to achieve the next harvesting level. Because sadly, harvesting linen is going to get you more levels with harvesting than attacking the alchemy plants. And that's just because there are set routes where you can just literally farm linen left and right, and they respawn by the time that you get from point A to point B. So I think that's perfectly fair to do, because you can level up pretty quickly with silkweed, and then from there you should be able to use just the raw silkweed plus linen to make crossweave. I think that would be more than fair. Plus, it also ensures that the lower levels can do it, because you wouldn't have to have your weaving up very high to do that. So that would be my suggestion 1. Suggestion 2 would make it a tier thing. So let's just say, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, because I've crafted so many steel ingots, I haven't stopped to remember, but it's like tier 2 smelting, right? Well, if it's tier 2 smelting, then make it so that if you're refining from a tier 3 smelter, it doesn't cost sandflux. Do something like that. Suggestion 3 would be to try to think about how to word this. Let's see here. Suggestion 3 would be to, I guess, change the math formula. because mathematically, let's just say a steel war axe, or great axe, I'm sorry, steel great axe should net me more experience than an iron great axe because of how much more iron it's taking. But as far as I can see from the math, that's not true, because if you do the math, I think it's what, 3 iron bars to a steel ingot, or I'm sorry, 3 steel ingot, or no, 3 iron ingots to 1 steel bar, or steel ingot. Dang it, I think it is right. So if that's the case, then I think it's like 13 steel ingots to make that axe, right? So it's 13 by 3, which I don't have a calculator in front of me, but it would be 13 by 3 iron, which means that it needs to net more experience than it would take to make. Let me think. Actually, no, I don't need a calculator, because wait, an iron great axe is 12 iron ingots, so 13 by 3. That means you can make 3 iron great axes for what it would take to make a steel axe. And I've looked at the math, and it does not appear that mathematically that the math is greater for the steel axe. So they really need to rework the experience gains to make that more feasible. That would be suggestion 3. Now, that's kind of just crafting. Now, I want to just deviate a little bit and talk about my idea from prior. I mentioned in the latest recording, or most recent, and I've mentioned it once before in a past recording, but I was talking about introducing masterwork equipment. So here's kind of my take to help you understand where I'm going with this. New World encourages you to use 2 weapons because you get 2 weapon slots, and it also makes it possible to level your weapons to max fairly quickly using the leveling methods mentioned from that one YouTube video that I linked. So it's very clear that it encourages you to change weapons, which I have no problem doing, because actually something I've been doing now is, even though I don't have the focus to really do it, I will transition from my bow to a life staff if I'm grouped with another person in non-excavation missions, because I don't mind healing. And honestly, if that's what it takes to accomplish the mission, is me to switch weapons, then I'm more than happy to do that. And I think that other people would have a similar mentality if the ability to do so was in place. But unfortunately, it's really difficult to craft and get your levels up. So yeah, so that's kind of like my thoughts on that. Now, my idea for Mastercraft originally was to introduce a set of equipment for all portions of crafting. That would be masterwork staffs, masterwork gauntlets, armor, jewelry, satchels, everything. And so my idea with this was to create a schematic that would be a step down from named. Because as I said in the recording a while back, named items or uniques or whatever the game wishes to call them, they have their time and place in games with certain builds, but in some games they're designed poorly or planned poorly to a point where they just don't get used. And I'm seeing that happen with New World because, like I pointed out, like the Fey Dragon musket's 99 thrusting and 99 arcane damage. Well, the problem is the musket standard attack does not increase the damage of the arcane, it only increases the damage of thrust. So it's pretty clear that a lot of this wasn't really properly planned. So Masterwork, my idea was to create a set of schematics that would only have 2 traits at max, because named ones have 3 at times. So named items have 3, so I would say Masterwork should only have 2 to kind of balance things out. And with Masterwork, you would have a guaranteed chance or close to a guaranteed chance of getting the stats and traits that you want. If that were put into this game, then I would create multiple sets of armor and multiple sets of weapons to fit my needs, whether that be if I'm harvesting or if that be, I need to switch to life staff, then, I would transition out my armor and weapons as needed. And I think it would be really cool if something like the Masterwork schematics were introduced to the game, because I'm okay with having one less trait to guarantee the traits and stats that I need to accomplish those builds. So, my suggestion for how to craft Mastercraft was just to make it more resources. So let's just say I need of the barbarian, then I would just throw in more ingots or something along those lines. I think that would be more than fair. I'm more than okay with expending more materials that I harvest anyways to guarantee that I get what I need. So yes, I think Mastercraft should be introduced to the game. That's all the crafting though. So let me talk about traveling now. One of the other major flaws of this game is going to be traveling. To put this into perspective and give you some background, I'm on a server where Covenant only has one faction, or Covenant only has one territory, and the rest is split between Syndicate and Marauders. Because they've made it so that fast travel discounts are based on the faction you join, that means if you're running into a server like this, then you would have to expend more Azoth to fast travel than somebody else who's actually with a winning faction. This is very unhealthy for the game because it means now that people who, were doing a faction because they wanted to do a faction, which, by the way, I think Covenant quests are really cool because it's like, oh, you kill undead. So it's very Paladin-like, which is pretty present in other MMOs. But then it's just like, well, now you don't get to do the stuff that you think is cool because now you're forced to pick a faction that actually makes sense to you, which then pulls away from that other faction, so there's not variety. So I've kept track of, somewhat have kept track of all the posts related to traveling, and people have suggested horses, like horses that you actually own, fast travel systems, public transit. There's been a number of ideas thrown out there. And I think that, honestly, a fast travel system would probably be better. One that's not based on Azoth. Maybe not as quick as, Azoth, but, something a step down that's a little more feasible. So I think you could do something like a caravan system where the caravan can say, well, you can trade, X item, and we'll give you a ride to wherever it is you desire. And I think that the choices for what you can trade for that caravan ride should be a wide variety so that if people aren't trained in one profession, whether that be weaponsmithing, I was about to say blacksmithing, but weaponsmithing, armorsmithing, or whatever, then, you have the ability to trade something else. So you could trade, let's say, 10 light meals to get a ride from Everfall to Brightwood. But if you don't have 50 cooking, then you can also trade 10 iron ingots to get your ride from Everfall to Brightwood, and I would be perfectly okay with that. I think that would be a much better approach and a much healthier approach to the faction system because, like I said, as it stands, there's really no point to doing what you think is cool, because you have to do whatever is beneficial to you on that server at this point. But that's really all I can say on this. Again, let me know about my mic volume. Thanks for listening.